Just updating on Twitter. Cool. I'm live. I'm ready to get started. So, I will be working Juniper setup. One of the first things I want to do is to just look at the Juniper project. It's gonna play around with example code. Sorry. So let's check this out. So just open up this folder. And right, so that's open. Oh, let me look around. And everything's too big for me to play around with. I hope that that's big enough for everyone to see. Sorry. Just hyping myself up some more. Some other places, telling people about my stream. All right, so let's look at the examples. And So one of the things that I want to work on is my end goal is to have GraphQL be a front-end API to my other project, which is OrbitalCI. It's a continuous integration system, also in Rust. And what I want to do is I want to have a front end, but one of the things that grpc doesn't have working for it well with the Rust ecosystem is to be able to write any kind of JavaScript or TypeScript, just like any kind of front-end browser language stuff, and have it communicate with the grpc API. So kind of throwing more shit into this, but what I'm gonna be doing is playing around with Juniper, and I'll just implement some interfaces in GraphQL, and I'll have the GraphQL endpoints throw back into the grpc, and so that way I don't have to re-implement anything. I can just have a bridge. And one of the things I did last week was get the router for Orbital, and I had it use a warp, which is I learned about it last week, but using warp as a middleware router, and if it if it's using HTTP like 1.1 or 1.0, it'll go over, and I assume in this case I'll be routing into GraphQL, and otherwise it'll route into the grpc stuff. And so looks like their example has some warp stuff. Let's play around with it. I'm gonna wrap this. So let's get a terminal up. Let's see if I can just build this. Looks like yes. I'm gonna go get the Juniper docs up. Wow. Okay, cool, that's up. Looks pretty small. Let's bump that up. Yeah, that's pretty small too. Probably be jumping back and forth between VS Code and Firefox, just because it's a little bit easier for me to see. I don't know whether or not it's easier for everyone else to see, but yeah. GraphQL is a data query language developed by Facebook. Great. Well, grpc is for Google, so it's not like can't do anything without the big guys. Make it possible to write GraphQL servers in Rust that are type safe and blazingly fast. Blazingly, whatever. We also try to make declaring and resolving GraphQL schemas as convenient as possible as Rust will allow. Well, we'll see what Rust allows. I want to try to see if I can hit this in the browser. What happens? Cool. Neat. Can't really read that. Come to GraphQL. GraphQL is an in-browser tool for writing and validating and testing GraphQL queries. Type of query. Okay, well, what are the example queries? don't think I understand quite how this works yet. All right, so it grabs in Juniper, it's all this stuff, warp, our web server, has this context, cool, that reminds me a lot like what you do in grpc, and this empty context for Juniper context, cool, okay, so there's a trait for that. So I'm guessing this is the example, user kind and admin, user guest. User has an ID and it is probably kind user guest, so just a place for us to tag that. Name. It's an impl for it. What's this? GraphQL object. I will try to ignore that for now. So we have for for methods, the ID, the kind, which I guess the endpoint isn't necessarily typed, so this should probably always return user name. Sick friends. This doesn't really have anything, so we just this user by itself. Oh no, actually, the way that this example is written, this user will never have any friends. It's kind of funny. And query. So query method for users will always return, this example will always return one guest, or one user, sorry, and I guess I was wrong about the kind of user. It'll return ID1, user ID, it'll be an admin kind, username, user1, request, so request. I haven't played around with this crate yet, but this is just like looking at it, I kind of relate it to the requests library in Python. I guess in that sense it's pretty it's a pretty simple interface to play around with. Just give it a, in this case, give it a slice, and it is async, so you wait for it. Text. All right, so two different awaits. I guess this is for the request itself. I'm not sure what this text await would do, other than maybe if it's calculating some stuff on some dynamic stuff. Schema. No. Static. Cool. Lifetimes. Let's try to not deal with lifetimes if we don't have to. Query, demutation, desubscription. I don't know what any of this is yet. So we have a schema, query, mutation, desubscription. Let's look at the Juniper docs. Oh yeah, okay. Desubscription, demutation. Demutation, okay. Utility to define read-only schemas if you instantiate root node. Sec. doing some more hyping. Okay, so back to the empty mutation. Read-only schemas. All right. Like I don't really have to deal with that at all. So we just give it a context. I don't know what a subscription is in GraphQL too. Oops. Subscription. Let's figure out what a subscription is. Okay, don't follow it. Just look at this GraphQL. So subscriptions and GraphQL and Relay. 2015. Event-based subscriptions. So this is the list of service support. Describes all the actions that a client can make. Okay. Looking at a post, you also wanted to know if want to get pushed an update. So I'm guessing a user would listen to a subscription. It would just be like a channel. Not live queries. So this approach requires a client to subscribe to events that it cares about. All right. So I don't need to worry about this because the code is saying empty subscription, so I'm guessing it just doesn't have any subscriptions. Version of Juniper is this because this doesn't have, oh, it's because it's in the struct. Subscription. It's not in there. This example uses for should be using whatever we're using here. So that's two different crates. Get the crate per warp. Huh. Eventually, I would like to kind of stuff does it have with Tower Web. That might be interesting. grpc is based off of Tower. Typer. Rocket, that's pretty cool. I'd like to use that. Rocket just hit, or I think stable support. I want to jump over to it, but I'm not going to. Focus. So how do I hit query? Okay, so first hit it. Oh, never seen this pattern before. All right, I want to do that in some other projects. So we need the logger. Doesn't say warp server or warp log. Oh yeah. Page, so here, and I did see this. It says visit this GraphQL, GraphIQL. It tells us that we're running on this IP and port, state, and, so I still don't really know how to use this. GraphQL query field. I want to try to hit that user, get that admin user. Users. Yeah. So I should have one user. What happens if I just hit unexpected? Don't understand. Users ID 1. All right. How do I get a user kind? I still don't get it. So, how do I test a GraphQL API? Testing. Section of clearly don't really have a grasp on it. Defining the schema. So this pretty much looks like what I have here. I think schema has a query, notation, subscription. So I guess my goal is I want this will always turn. So I want to see if I can get to the user returned, and then I'll try to modify this a little bit. So in here they've got a file with users. They've got some mock data. And then how do they actually query for it? Just a lot of stuff. So they start it, finally. After running, you'll see test the server, go to playground, your window, run the following post. So I have there's and let's try name. Okay. So I have name, ID, kind, friends. ID, kind. Don't need commas. Let's find out. Turns it all capital. So, alright. Kind. So, not exactly sure how that translates into all caps admin. Okay. Friends. So this user has no friends. Let's try to play. There's no database, so I can just something in here. Kind of use just a guest. It says 932, so let's play around. Let's say ID -1 guest, and it's a ghost. A ghost. That build. Oh, cool! It pulled that out. I want to know if friends care much about. I guess I want their ID. Cool. Well, that's pretty easy. This GraphQL come into play. I want to use it. I want to bring that into my project. Probably just comes in with Juniper Warp. Okay. I don't understand Warp all that well. So here's the Warp server. Command. I guess this is the router. So if Warp gets the request and the path is GraphQL, it's a filter. Replies with an HTML page containing GraphQL. This does not handle routing, so you can mount it on any endpoint. filter GraphQL. Okay, so I don't think I'm working with any subscriptions. GraphQL point. I guess if I were going to hit this with GraphQL, it would. These are just like, this is if it's HTTP and this is if it's GraphQL. I guess, I don't know. Or homepage path graph. Let's hit that. Give me a 404. Doesn't really do anything. That's awesome. But I don't really understand with log. How do I make this log? So it says warp-based sync Rust log. So I'd expect it to give me everything. Log example. I just don't seem to be getting this log. Page is just the root. Doesn't really seem to be logging any the request. Well, I know I'm gonna want that. Okay, so that seems useful, I guess. And I probably want subscriptions, but now this look like. Okay, so let's play around with the warp subscriptions example. Building. Taking a moment. Then it's got a few. Okay. This one actually does have quests. I'll look into that. GraphQL Playground. Well, this looks a lot nicer than the GraphQL presentation here. Schema. They still have user. I don't know what I am doing. Three people. Hello, everyone. So right now I'm just playing around with a new example in the Juniper crate, and I just want to know how to make queries since this is my first time playing with GraphQL. So demo schema has query empty mutation. The query is users with an ID. Okay, I didn't really look at the last one, but user ID. And I don't really understand how this works. Do I need to say ID? Oops. Yeah, alright. Field users of type user must have a selection of subfield. I guess. Must have. Did you have? I don't really know anything of what I'm doing. Friends. Uh, um, this is what happens when you just jump in and you don't know what you're doing. The I just want there. Yeah. Do they have an example of how to do things? Let's just, okay, maybe I'll just go through the Juniper book. So I already know Juniper GraphQL library types. Does not include a web server, but we are using Warp right now. Hopefully we'll be using Rocket since that's stable. All right, what's next? This is just I thought you're gonna walk me through things. Plenty of examples covering all features. Pretty much work in progress. No kidding. Quick start. That's old. Example. So your schema is custom derive attribute based. It's easy here. Supports Rust types, option spec, box, string, float 64, signed 32. Okay, so Star Wars example. So episode, New Hope, Empire, Jedi. Human. This creates a new human. Object. Okay. Too bad you can't. It's duplication there. Context, so we have our database pool. What is database? Not there. Marker trait. And pass it a context. Query. Okay, so this is a simple server or a simple schema. Query side. This is if you want to actually run the GraphQL side Rust. Yeah, type system. Finding X. I feel like I'm getting a little further away from what I'm trying to do, which is just to query. I'm looking right at the source code. I know what's in it. The wrong source code. Oh man, the wraps. Stay okay. Async Tokyo 2 2. We do have the user. If this is user 1, they've got 1, 2, 3 friends. If they're user 2, they've got 1 friend. 3 has 2 friends. Thing. So, I'm guessing here, you query for a user, give it one of these fields, and it'll you can tell it friends if you have it query. And what? Like, it doesn't seem to be doing anything here. It'll always say user kind is admin. Okay, so what happens? Let's go to subscriptions. Boot upgrade. Who's doing the WebSocket stuff? So if it's playground. Seems to generate all the stuff in here, which is helpful if I knew how to read it. If I were not impatient, which I am. Let's do it like that. Just like don't know what I'm doing. Queer. Is it capital? Does it matter? Just gotta search it up. Easy. Cool. Oh, hi. Cool. Cool. Um, yeah, I wrote that blog. I posted it yesterday. It seems to be doing really well. I wasn't expecting it. So I posted the blog post. Yeah, Monday, and then it got. Wasn't expecting all of the attention. It got retweeted by some bots on Twitter. But then like from there, it's like at over 1,000 views, which is easily my most successful Dev2 post. So like right now, what I'm just trying to do is play around with Juniper and GraphQL, and I don't have any experience with GraphQL. I'm struggling a little bit with my impatience and unwillingness to look at documentation. I don't really want to do that on the stream yet, unless the stream is mostly consisting of me struggling with not doing anything but complaining about not knowing how to do anything, which is possible right now. I mean, what I'm trying to do right now is just make a query using this playground that gets served with the Juniper warp subscriptions example. And I just want to return some of the mock data that they have. Like, I'd be happy if I just had any of these users and then and be able to just see that if I am a specific user that it returns this different composition of friends. Uh, it seems to do something. Okay. Query type query. How about just users? Users ID one. improvement. Field use of type to have a selection of subfields. Maybe. To read. Things seem upset. Refresh. Now it doesn't even give me the error message. What the heck? Oh, I had ID. Expected name. Field friends of type. Have Alright, what I'm getting is that when it's red, it's mad at me. But it won't give me error messages. And I'm just expecting a little bit. Because I kind of use the Rust compiler to give me error messages, and this not nearly as nice about it. Oh. That. Oh, yeah, okay. Looks like my bitrate is pretty low. Or too high, I'm not sure. Thanks for the follow. Yeah, I'm still learning how to play with this OBS stuff. It looks like, yeah, my kilobit, I'm at like 6 kilobit, 600, 6,000? Man, I can't read it. Yeah, so I will definitely, I can't deal with it right now, but I hope to improve the bitrate. You're not the first person to tell me that, but I honestly, I didn't know how to address it. Oh, after the stream, I'll definitely do some research to see how to improve the bitrate for everyone else. Just for a note for myself, for everyone. The stream manager says that I'm at 5 megabit. So take that. I don't know if that's good or bad. Seems pretty low to me, considering I'm on a gigabit connection. Okay, I'm planning on doing this for like at least another couple of hours. So I'm looking at this query example here. Do I need to quote my ID? Can't a number be a number? A better error message. Oh, okay, so I was overcomplicating it a little bit. I change this to 2. Will he be different? Very cool. 3, 2 friends. All right. Well, why was that so difficult for me? What was I doing? I guess I'll have to look back. Seems like I was really close the entire time. I'll definitely have to look into the basics, but yeah, it looks like in this query object users, give it an ID. So just pass back everything, ID, kind, the name. Everyone is of type admin here. I think because of this. So I definitely would want to know how in this case I would actually return the user's type or the user's kind. Thank you. Practice examples. Let's like clear that block for me. This new stack post is also, it looks the same, but it just didn't help me. And so how exactly would I have done this? Not that query. I don't think I could have the way that this is written. ID, kind, name. So for 3, it'd be user 31 as a user and user 32 as a guest. Yep. Okay, so that seems like that's good enough for now. What do I do next? Else. So these are my notes. Juniper plus warp. Well, I think that I've accomplished that easily. I wonder if the buffer is because I am broadcasting through Restream instead of just directly to Twitch. I'll definitely have to try that out next week when I do the stream next week. Because I'm definitely getting more attention and I pay most attention in Twitch than I do splitting between Twitch and YouTube. So it's not like I'm not gonna necessarily lose out on anything. Okay, what I think I will do is try to integrate this into Orbital. It's gonna swap that over. I'm trying to do there we go. Let's go over into Orbital. Probably be adding it here. I'm just gonna pull from the subscriptions example. So I already have warp. And I'll need the Juniper and the Juniper warp crates. US 14, yep, and Juniper warp. I don't quite remember what it is version wise, so 0.5. This is where I have, where I have the hyper and warp stuff. Gonna need to understand a little bit about how this works. So instead of this warp path hello, by that. It's gonna copy stuff. Let's get GraphQL. It's gonna copy things straight up. Like the way that this works here is we do the header switching and we just call exactly how I'm gonna make that call clear. Service, do I use warp service in full? I do not. Warp path. So everything is kind of wrapped up in this example. Hello. I should stop. Let's work. We're good. Okay. So hopefully this at least starts. I'll make sure that the one endpoint still works. So my bitrate still says it's at 5.8 megabit, even though it's compiling pretty hard. So it's running. Should say hello world. It says hello world. Cool. So let's change this one up. I guess what I want to do is, if possible, I can copy all of this GraphQL example stuff into here, so at the very least I'll have all of GraphQL running inside of Orbital. And then I'll have a place to start. This subscription stuff, not really ready to pick on this. What is the playground stuff? So I'm going to try to work my way around. GraphQL object where do I get that? It's like I'm missing some stuff from the I need feature subscriptions. Like I think I'm just gonna try to not. Okay, so I think it's trait. Still standard task context. Uh, so it's like doesn't make quite sense to me because this example is its own crate, just like Orbital. The way it's written, it's pulling from another crate. Find an implemented crate or type instead. Well, I mean, it's supposed to do that. A little bit. Clicked on it. How would I have done this with Hyper? Forget it. For the documentation. Yeah, it happened again. I didn't check to see that my stream was in other places. Okay. One sec, I'm gonna check to see if I can see my stream. I don't see it, but I don't know whether or not it's just because I can't see my own stream or not. Graph. Oh. I mean, at least I'm in the right place again, but not necessarily ideal. I don't think that I'm in the right place to be found. back to in Juniper. So let's just like take this piece by piece instead of copy pasting everything. Once x is defined time. Where else do I have context defined? Let's call this the GraphQL context. Work. So we'll build now. Why not? It's defined multiple times. We'll call it GQL context. Seems to make it happy. While it's building. Oh, if I'm just gonna qualify it here, I don't really understand what I'm doing here. I guess it'll just throw an error. Okay, so we're walking, copying the users. Seems happy. I don't have any indication that that's not gonna work. Let's just skip forward. In users impl. And this I'm pretty sure I'm gonna need to fix. This should the GraphQL context is GQL context. So you talk macro instead. Please tell me this. All right, I don't know how that's supposed to work. It says to doc say to not use this GraphQL object macro and instead use something else. Project. So the example didn't help me through that because it's using the older version. Seems to be building. But does that mean I don't have to have that context? Doesn't make any sense to me. It looks like it. So it still does that. Yeah. Okay. So I still need to have the context, but I don't. Maybe it's like this: context equals GQL context. And that seems to build. Cool. Okay. And okay, what's next? These are in here. We'll add in the query. I'm gonna have the same deal. The GraphQL object, it will just be object. Context will be GQL context. It's build. Skipping over subscription. Adding in the schema. We don't have subscription. I think last time I saw that this was just none. Because I don't have a subscription, right? Or maybe I just don't have it. GQL context. So what happens if I just don't have this in here? Okay, so that's saying it's dead code. Not gonna stop there. Schema new, turn this into none. So that fails. Takes in 2 arguments, but 3 were supplied. Alright, so that's building. Now let's change that hello world. Let warp equals that warp service again. Copy side here. What is response? And have an HTTP response. Copy something. Oh, I needed a semicolon. That's it. That's building. I don't understand what these are. I mean, I'll take them, but so this should be GQL context set. So build. You are mad about what exactly? Human state. Expected warp filter, box filter. Expected a different struct. Are you not the same? Warp filter, box filter, box filter. Do I see this? 2 places. Ah, come on. Well, why does that not? Why doesn't that work? I don't know if I need it. So, these appear to be the exact same thing. Need perhaps two versions of warp are being used. Okay. Are 2 versions of warp being used? Let's check that out. Warp. Okay. Juniper warp. What version of warp is Juniper warp using? Because this is probably what's using the. Dang, what the heck? Older. I wonder if I can just swap it. Seems like not my favorite approach. And it's not the way you do comments in the TOML file. It is upset. Cool. I am stuck. I am stuck. This is what happens when you're copy pasting code. Right, so I am in a place where well, what version is hyper? I can just move over and use a different web server. We're using I was using hyper and warm. What's the difference? So that was just for the routing. And so I'm starting to hit a block. I don't necessarily know how to get past, and I don't necessarily know that I want to hack my way through it. And if I don't hack my way through it, then I don't necessarily have a plan for the rest of the stream. I can look at see how it's so what's the newest version here? There's an update into this crate, but it doesn't update the crate. I don't get it. Rocket can now compile unstable. Maybe it's just time to move over onto Rocket. That might just be a different thing. I've gotten pretty far. Does it build? Okay, so how can I use tonic and hyper, or tonic and rocket? Right now I'm just using hyper. I kind of hesitant to just jump over onto doing something else. I mean, the whole point of using warp is because I was able to switch between going to using the one HTTP versus another. So it's not really a light move. Got hit by 2 bots in the chat at the same time. 3? Ooh, awesome. Come on, Twitch. Man, I just want to exit that. Wah wah. It's gonna go over into the 2-hour mark, which is in 11 minutes, and I'm probably gonna stop. But this has been pretty good. I was able to play around with Juniper, struggled my way through making some of the queries work with their example, and then I got a little bit of the ways into integrating it into Orbital, but all of their examples are using older versions of crates that I'm using today, and without that being at my level, I just won't be able to get past. Sucks. Oh, let me get some idea what I'm doing next. Jump over to Tonic. Oh, I actually have an open PR with Tonic, and I'm using my own crate, and it's to do this this multi-service routing. So I'm waiting for that. Still open, been a week. Examples. Let's look at Rocket. So Rocket is let's look at it in GitHub. Maybe what's next is just to play around with Rocket. And what I want to be able to do is see if I can, you know, more or less take this example here where I am listening. I'm listening for both HTTP 1.1 and 2.0. And then I'm able to split between the two of them. It's a little bit above my head because especially since I copied a lot of this. But as long as Rocket is able to do it, I don't feel like that's gonna be impossible. Okay. Yeah, I don't really have anything left to say, so I am 5 minutes off the 2-hour mark. It's gonna... I guess I... just gonna close it out. Sorry for, new person who just jumped in. I'm about to close out my stream. I'll be back next week. I gonna continue down this path unless something else comes up, but at the moment it's still trying to integrate grpc and GraphQL together. I made some progress with GraphQL, but I ran into some issues, so we might play around with Rocket to see if I can bridge those two projects together. So until next time, I'm closing out. Bye.